Welcome back to the Hammers Academy YouTube channel. I'm joined again by Lou and Justin. How are you guys doing? Lou, I'll come to you first.
Very well. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. And Justin, yourself?
Doing well, Henry. Doing well.
Awesome. So we're making this video today. It's a little time has passed since the David Sullivan TalkSport interview, and we're going to sort of give our reactions, whether we know whether we think anything positive came out of it, or if anything negative came out of it. We shall see. Lou, you wrote an article about the interview he gave. If you'd like to sort of inform us a bit more for those who might not have heard it.
Yeah, well, I'd say just say first, the only positive that came out of it is confirmation to the rest of the world how much an idiot David Sullivan is. Because I'm not sure a lot of fans have grasped just how bad he is to deal with as an owner at the minute. So for him to publicly embarrass himself on TalkSport, was kind of a blessing to the fans in a way. But yeah, he just spoke about what did he speak about? He bemoaned basically uh, how much we've lost in revenue because of COVID, blah blah blah, all that. Despite other clubs not seemingly being affected in the same way. He touched on the Dean Garner sale and how he certainly doesn't regret it because we have quote unquote 8 wingers in the squad. That still doesn't explain why you would sell our best winger out of the 8, but never mind. Um, he had a little gripe about how we got through to the next round of the cup and how that's going to cost the club £50,000. Like we're not a multi-million, pound company at the end of the day. The 20th or something richest club in the world. And yeah, it was just general. It woes me from David Sullivan. I think he tried to make people sorry for him. The interview was conducted by his old pal Jim White, who didn't press him nearly enough on all the matters. He claimed that he did afterwards, but if you actually listen to the interview, he wasn't very hard on Sullivan at all. And yeah, overall, he's done him more harm than it has good, that's for sure.
Justin, when you hear that, what sort of, out of those points that we've heard of, like the fact he wasn't pressed too much by Jim White, the fact he said, "Oh, we've got no money yet," everyone knows all these other clubs are spending. Like, I mean, Everton have spent relatively well this summer and have still been progressing with building a new stadium, let alone renting a stadium. They're building a new one to their own expense. And obviously, you've seen Aston Villa spend a fortunes and all this. What part of it most affected, like upset you or rattled your brain? I don't know where that came from, but you know.
The part that, the part that there wasn't one part in particular that upset me more than the others. It was just the sum of the parts in total. Sometimes it's better to just shut up. Sometimes it's better to just not say anything. And he just continues to dig his own, for lack of a better term, dig his own grave. Really, it was, first of all, he sounded like he was stoned. He was mumbling over himself, like he didn't even know what to say. Are you guys surprised that White didn't press him? I'm not. That's the whole reason why he went on there. And that's the whole reason why he's declined interviews from other West Ham fan Instagram or Twitter or YouTube accounts, is because he knows the hard-hitting questions would be asked of him on TalkSport. He knew that they weren't, or they wouldn't be. The whole reason why he went on there. The part, and now that I think about it, the part that really actually does piss me off the most was when he said that the fans wanted like a top manager and director of football, and it didn't work. Okay, a couple things on that. First of all, the fans wanted it. Well, yeah, of course we wanted it, because he is an imbecile and inept and incompetent in his job. But why doesn't he want it?
And also, what fans wouldn't want a top manager at their club?
What fans wouldn't want it? But he claims to be doesn't he claim to be, maybe not as much as Gold, but he claims to be a West Ham fan himself. Why wouldn't he want what's best for the club? You know what I mean? That just irked me. Why wouldn't he want that to begin with? And not only so he got a director of football, fine, he got a top manager, sure. But they were joined at the hip. There was no plan B. There was no, what if this doesn't work? What if Pellegrini doesn't work? And I'll be the first to admit, I'm shocked that it didn't work, and I'm shocked at how quickly the downfall happened. But he set himself up for, all right, Pellegrini's fired, so is his backroom staff, so is the scouting staff, so is the director of football. We're back to square one. There was no plan B. And yeah, he did spend the money for a couple summers, broke our transfer fee record a few times. And yeah, those guys haven't panned out, but we did not move to the London Stadium to spend a fair amount of money 2 out of every 3 summers or 2 out of every 4 summers. We moved there to be a world-class football team at a world-class stadium. And those are quotes from Karen Brady.
Great use of the finger quotes.
Those are direct quotes from Lady Brady. So it's just the whole talking about how the fans wanted a director of football and it didn't work. And so what? You just go back to the way things were before? Why not try to hire another director of football? Why not? It's just that really irked me the most. The whole conversation was just atrocious. He made things worse for himself, but that really, when he brought the fans into it, that's what really pissed me off the most.
Yeah, especially like we said, like what team doesn't want a top manager at the club? I think one of the things that annoyed me was he said, well, we brought a director of football like the fans wanted and it didn't work. It's like, you brought a director of football that was mates with the manager. That's basically just having a manager in charge of your transfers, but he's doing it with someone else. A director of football needs to be separate from the manager and oversees it. Like, he declares the philosophy of the club. Well, not declares, but he gets given what needs to be built into the club and he runs it. He employs the manager. He'll work with the manager, but not to the extent Pellegrini and Hyselios was. The director of football stays after the manager goes because so he can bring in the correct manager with the players the club has, not the next guy or even the previous guy to work with a team of players that he wouldn't never have signed. And so he doesn't know how to get the best out of them. That's why Moyes has got the best out of Antonio, the player that he worked with before. He hasn't got the best out of Haller, Pellegrini signing. He hasn't got the best out of Anderson, Pellegrini signing. He's maybe done okay for Fornals, but he took a lot of time to get him into the side after he came in because he was still trying to get the old Lanzini back.
Lanzini, yeah.
Yeah. I think the bit that sort of frustrated me the most was when he was complaining that we'd progressed in the League Cup because we had to pay £50,000 for a flight to Liverpool to play Everton. I mean, I don't know what plane they're getting, but you can easily get a coach for a lot less than 50 grand. But I mean, if you're a fan and you're giving money for your season ticket, that's really going to hurt. He's basically saying there's no money in the cup, so there's no point doing it because there's no point doing the money. And you're like, well, I'm a fan. I'm not actually really concerned about your prize money. I'm concerned about seeing my club make history for me to enjoy. And West Ham winning the League Cup this season would be a great bit of history for us in what is probably one of the darkest times in the last 30 years of the club, maybe the second or equal to the worst. And that's when the Icelandics went bust and we got relegated. Those are probably the 2 worst moments, at least in my lifetime. And if we were able to win a cup out of nothing, I don't think it's likely because Everton look unbelievable and we've got them next. But it would just bring a whole new shine to everything. I wouldn't say everyone would switch to get the board out and have them in because they've won us this trophy. But everyone might start to feel a little bit better being like, oh, we have won a trophy since we've moved. But the fact he's saying, oh, it's 50 grand to get there, like pleading poverty in that sense, it's like, well, you're a billionaire. You're the owner, as Lou said, of a multi-million-pound football club, and you're complaining about this small expense that everyone has to do. Even championship clubs take that bill on. I'm sure probably even some League One clubs do. Maybe not at the moment, but they definitely would have been. So if you're going to buy your season ticket, or at least saying, I'm not going to ring them up now and ask for my money back because football's not going to be back for fans for 6 months, like a lot more fans are going to ring up and ask for their money back rather than saying, no, it's all right, I want to keep in the good books of the club, so when I can get back in, I might be the first to get back in and see it. So he's going to have lost a lot more fans that might not have been as aggressively bored out as a lot of the others are that are on social media. So I think he's definitely made a lot more enemies with it. But yeah, so I mean, I think I saw an article for Green Street Hammers, and there was a poll underneath it that said, "Are you GBS in or GBS out?" And I think it's the highest one I've ever seen. I've always seen it hit like 95, 97, 98, but it was 99% out. Like, do you guys really think that, really, other than a very small minority, they can sort of carry on as the owners of the club, or do you reckon their position is just becoming untenable and they need to find someone to buy the club as soon as possible? Or is that sort of your wish? Lou, I'll come to you first.
Yeah, I think the more that is going on, I think their position is becoming untenable. You can't own a club or any company really, and 99% of the fan base not even just don't want you there. They actively hate you at this point, to put it nicely. Yeah, we've had links with these American buyers. It depends how much you believe them, how true they are at the minute. But I think they really need to look at the bigger picture rather than their own egos and think about really doing business with these and selling the club, because the next time David Sullivan claims to be a West Ham fan and claims to care about the club, we should show him that quote about the one we just mentioned about the having to pay 50 grand to get up to Everton, and that he'd rather miss out on a cup to see West Ham win a cup than pay for travel up to a game that is half of Jack Wilshere's weekly wage. I think that shows really how much he does care about the club, which is not at all in reality.
It really shows priorities.
Priorities, exactly, and he cares more about money than the club's success. And I think ultimately, when he said in the interview actually that he hopes fans are allowed back soon, but I think he'll be hoping fans are kept away as long as possible, because even more pressure will be put on the board than at games, on protests outside of the stadium. And I think with all that added pressure, that would certainly top them off, and I just couldn't see them continuing. But it's a tricky one at the minute.
I think if it wasn't for COVID, the riot at Burnley would look relatively small.
Yeah.
As to what could be happening now. I mean, in all honesty, it would be horrific, but I do see West Ham fans and everyone is that passionate about it, and it's your football club is like, it's a part of you, and people want to protect it. So it does become understandable. Like, Justin, like, what about you? Do you think they're just becoming untenable? It's just sort of has to be only a matter of time until they are out of the club? I know it's impossible to sack the board. It's a sentence that really, really frustrates me, because I think if we could sack the board, we'll be sacking the board at the end of every game. But you can't sack the board. But do you think it is only a matter of time until they do sell up?
Yeah, a matter of time, but how much time? How much time? I think Lou mentioned two things. One, maybe they'll put aside their egos and they'll realize what's best for the club is to sell. That's not happening. These guys are so vain. Their egos are the size of London Stadium itself. That's not happening. I can tell you that. It would have to get really bad for them to be forced to sell the club. You saw, and I was at that Burnley match, and it was incredible is not the word, but it was just, I couldn't really believe my eyes. That was really the catalyst for them to wake up and say, we need a director, we need to change things up. And then that led to Josilos and Pellegrini. I think we're going to have to wait for fans to come back into the stadium, those protests to start again, maybe even an angry mob in London Stadium again, like at that Burnley match, for them to maybe slowly start to realize, yeah, it's time to go. But they care about, and Lou, you also said this too, they care about money first. This is a business to them. This isn't a football club. This is a business. And they have been very good businessmen throughout their career. Obviously, they're self-made. They're very good at making money, and they're going to continue to put that first. And I think there's the clause in the renters agreement that if they sell before 2023, they have to pay a 20% tax or something like that, or a penalty. They're not going to want to do that. And I think by the time that we see fans in the stadiums, it'll be 2021, maybe even into the 2021-2022 season. At that point, they really only have to stick it out for 2 more seasons, and then they can sell. They won't have that penalty. So I think that they will sell. I simply just don't think it will occur before that 2023 date. I think it's March 2023.
I think I agree. I think a few years ago, everyone was sort of worried about this Sullivan hierarchy that we'd have had to live through, with Jack being at the women's and he would inherit the club, and he was having his training and was going to sort of inherit the club and become, and we'd have sort of like a monarchy in terms of things. I think they will sell. I think it's possible the club could be sold between 2023. I just think whatever deal would be put on offer would have to sort of cover the tax that they'd have to pay. So the buyer would have to pay a bit more basically to cover the cost of whatever the tax bill is, whether it's 20%, 30%, whatever. But yeah, it is a sorry state at the moment because sadly I don't think they're going anywhere for a while.
And the Sullivan and the board obviously have a outlandish valuation of what the club is actually worth compared to.
I think it said 800 million.
800 million, which, let's be honest, it isn't.
Burnley have finished above us for how many seasons on the trot now, and they're being sold to America for, I'm pretty sure it's not 800 million. I know they're not a London-based club with access to the stadium, but the value's not going to be 500 million pounds cheaper. Like, we should be lower down to be close to Burnley.
They need to be more realistic, but they're obviously setting that price so high just so bidders can come in, they can bid, and they can swiftly say no, and they say, well, if you match our bid, then we'll sell it, but if you don't, then we won't, and they know what they're doing.
Anyway, I think that's where we're going to leave it for this one. Very positive end to the video. Thank you, Justin and Lou. Make sure you subscribe to everyone's social medias down below. Please like the video and comment what you think about the current board. I'm sure I can already predict what those comments will be. Subscribe to the Hammers Academy, and until then, come on you Irons. Okay. Cool.